We all want to train our children in the habit of obedience. This can be a daunting task. These 5 tips help me to maintain consistency and train my children in the habit of obedience. I'm Crystal Wagner with Triumphant Learning, and I'm glad you've joined me today as we talk about this important habit. You know, training your child in the habit of obedience is your responsibility. God has given you the authority to train your child. Deuteronomy 12:28 says, "Be careful to obey all these words that I command you, that it may go well with you and with your children after you when you do what is good and right in the sight of the Lord." So you have a responsibility. But not only is it your responsibility to train your child in the habit of obedience, it's also a privilege and it's a gift to your child. This is possibly one of the best gifts you can give your children. They inevitably will have to obey someone at some point in their life. They may need to obey a spouse. They may need to obey a coach. They may need to obey a boss or superior. So helping them learn this habit early is very important and will benefit them for many years to come and possibly generations to come. But training in the habit of obedience can be daunting. It can be overwhelming, especially on those days when you just don't feel like putting forth that effort because you're tired, you have a lot going on, maybe it is just a really rough day. So these 5 tips are what help me to stay consistent in this habit training. First, I expect obedience with a single soft-spoken word. Now, I'll be the first to admit I don't always follow that. I catch myself repeating myself. What I want to instill in my children is that when I say, "Go do this," they go do it. I don't have to count down and say, "I said go do it. You have until the count of 3. I don't want to yell at them. And yet I catch myself sometimes still doing that, and I have to rein myself back in and say, no, I should only have to say it once. I should have to say it gently. They should not be waiting for my next request or command. Now, also, sometimes you have to make it happen, especially if you have younger children. When my girls were younger, I would get up, take them by the hand, and lead them in completing the task, especially things such as picking up toys or getting dressed or putting their dishes away, helping them learn to set the table. Sometimes I would have to get up out of my comfortable chair and help them to obey. But by strengthening their habit of obeying when I tell them to do something, it became much easier and much less of a problem in the future. This is not to say that we have perfect obedience at our house by any means, but we try to instill these habits so that we have fewer problems. Second, I expect prompt and cheerful obedience. I've had to tell my girls multiple times, delayed obedience is still disobedience. So if they want to obey but on their terms, they're still not instilling the habit of obedience. So I expect them to get up almost immediately. I recognize that sometimes they're finishing a task, and we've talked about ways that they can respectfully communicate that, such as, "Mom, I need to finish this. May I do it in a moment?" But they're asking permission to delay the obedience. They're recognizing that I've requested them to do something and they are going to do it, but they need to finish. Let's say they're working on an assignment and they need to finish that writing. Maybe they need to finish cleaning up their dishes before they can move on to the next task. So they are recognizing that they are going to obey and they are not ignoring my request completely. Sometimes just the simple act of acknowledging my request helps them to take that initiative. So I don't know if you've found that sometimes your children have been playing and you say, hey, we need to stop playing, it's time to go get your shoes on, meet me at the door. And 5 minutes later, they're still playing. Sometimes it truly is disobedience. They are choosing not to obey. Sometimes they get wrapped up in their story and they forget to stop. I've done this myself. So I have asked them to acknowledge my requests. So they might say, yes, ma'am, I'm coming. They might say, I'm coming right now. They might say, I'm going to get my shoes. Just that simple act of repeating back or acknowledging what they need to do helps them take that initiative to actually get up and go do it. Another tip that I keep in mind is never make a command or request unless I intend to see it through. So there have been times that I may have asked them to go do something and then I got busy with my household tasks or work or whatever, and I forgot to go check on them and they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. So that was partly my fault for not making sure that they followed through with it. Another example is if I am, let's say, out in a store, whenever I had younger children, if I said, come here, and they didn't come to me, I needed to be in a place where I could go help them come to me so that I can build their strength and build that habit of obedience. Another tip is to remember that learning to obey doesn't have to be a dreary activity. It can be fun. I'll leave a link in the comments below to some games that we play, such as Mother May I, or Run to Mommy, or Simon Says. All of those games help your children learn how to obey in a fun way. So whenever you say to go do something, it's not a completely foreign concept to them. You've been playing these games and they will immediately go. One of my favorite stories is about the Run to Mommy game. So when we play this game, I start out when my children are young. I've done it with my 2-year-olds, and you make sure to do it at a time when you know they're going to obey. So for example, we'd be walking down the sidewalk and my daughter would be a few steps in front of me. She'd turn around and decide she wants to come run back to me. So at that moment that she's already running to me, I'd hold out my arms really wide and say, run to mommy. And she'd run and I would envelop her in a big hug and pick her up and tell her that was a great job running to mommy. And we'd keep playing this game just kind of periodically when I knew she was ready. And particularly for one of my children, I made sure to only do this when she was running towards me because she tended to be the one that wanted to obey on her own terms. So once I knew that she'd been doing this consistently, I would wait until she's walking a little bit in front of me and I would yell, run to mommy. I'd make sure she wasn't distracted with something else, but that she had actually heard me, and she would run back to me. And I would make a big deal and praise her and tell her that was a great job for running back. And pretty soon she could be down the block and I could yell at run to mommy and she'd run back to me. So this has several really beneficial outcomes also, because we use this still, even though my girls are upper elementary and middle school age, it's very helpful. Whenever my oldest daughter was 5, we were on a nature walk with some friends and they had gone around the bend a little bit. We knew the area. We weren't concerned about their safety, but we knew it was time for them to come back so we could head back to the car. And I was curious if this would actually work. We'd been playing this game and I wanted to see if she would respond in this setting, which we'd never tested before. So I yelled out, run to mommy. And lo and behold, I had her followed by all these other kids racing down to us. And it was such a confirmation that this game was really helping to build that habit. We still use this today, particularly when we're on a nature walk and we may have our group kind of spread out over the field or the whatever area where we are, and all of the moms have a whistle. Now, the point of the whistle is not, that is obviously not a soft-spoken word, but we need to have something that they can hear from a distance. So we have told the kids, anytime you hear a whistle, that means you need to run to the nearest adult in our group. It could be that it's time to go. It could be that there's some safety concern and we need to gather all the kids up. So the older kids help the younger kids, and we practice this also. We don't use this only whenever we actually need them to come. Sometimes we'll just have a practice run and we'll just blow the whistle to make sure that they are still in the habit of obeying that whistle. We make sure that it is second nature that they do that. So this can translate into obedience in other aspects of their life also. It also can be helpful to explain the reward of perfect obedience. That reward is freedom and independence. So if I can expect my children to obey, they can earn additional independence or rewards from that. If I ask my children, in the morning when you get up, will you please clean up your room and be ready to go so that we can leave on time? And I have in the past made a reward out of that, in that if they can accomplish that, then we are able to go do some fun things, such as maybe go to the bagel shop. And that helps them to start thinking that way. Some other examples include, because I can trust my children to obey, I can tell them to do the household tasks, such as emptying the dishwasher or putting their clothes away, while I go take care of some other chores that I need to do. And I don't have to be right there with them. They're able to accomplish the tasks and have a little more independence. So training your children in the habit of obedience is not a quick and effortless activity or process, but the rewards are many. I hope these 5 tips will help you as you train your children.